Hi, this is Little Bohemians. I'm Khadijah Anderson, and I've been an early childhood educator for a long time now, 18 years. 8 years I worked primarily as a preschool teacher and a toddler teacher in big centers. And then for the last 10 years I've had my small in-home daycare where I care for 4 children, usually 4. Sometimes I'll do 5 if I have a child transitioning out and one coming in. Or sometimes my previous Little Bohemians come back and visit and need a few days care, so I do that for them. But generally 4 kids, so the difference between having 8 or more kids and having 4 kids is huge. In fact, if you're interested in caregiving, interested in owning your own daycare or anything like that, or going to work at a center as an early childhood educator or caregiver, I actually have a book that's coming out now called The New Child Care. It should be out in about a week. But in the meantime, I'm going to pull from the Daycare Bible, which there's going to be a link to down in the comments section, so you can pick this book up if you want. It's not only for parents that want to find daycare for their children, although that's a really good reason to have this book. But I also talk about a lot of parenting issues. And one of them, in fact, one chapter is called In the Land of No, Solving Common Toddler Issues. And there's a bunch of little sub-chapters. And so one of them that I'm going to talk about a little today is abstract versus concrete thought. Or if you hit your friends, you will make them sad. So basically, young children are on a continuum of development, obviously, right? There's not one day when suddenly they wake up and they can do something like tie their shoes, okay? Or take their shoes off even, put them on even. Some kids do that quicker than others, and with everything is on a spectrum, on a continual line, right? So one of the things that happens a lot, though, is that we tell our children things and we figure, well, this is a really easy thing. They should be able to understand this, such as if a child hits another child and you say to them, that's going to make your friend sad, or that's going to hurt your friend. Well, I'm not saying don't tell them that, because that's really an excellent thing to do. I really believe that we should explain things to children and tell them things all the time. But you can't expect that they're going to understand that until a certain developmental level, closer to age 3. But some kids can empathize and understand these abstract concepts like making somebody sad or hurting somebody. They just don't get it because their brains are not developed for that sort of thought yet. So this is called abstract versus concrete thought. Here's another one, and I actually mentioned this in my book. I was dropping my daughter off at a swim lesson, and it's a really busy parking lot at a big center here near Los Angeles. And it was cute because I was walking back out to the car with her, and there was a little kid and his mom, and the child was probably not 3, between 1.5 years and 2.5, I'd say. And the child went running into the parking lot, and the mom said, "Stop, you're going to get hit by a car. Don't run. Don't run." And the child looked back at the mom, smiling, and kept running. And I just sort of chuckled. I wouldn't have chuckled if a car had been coming. There wasn't any danger right that minute, so it was fine. But it was interesting because I thought, here's an example of concrete versus abstract thought. First of all, what young children don't process information they hear as quickly as we do. If you tell a child something, you need to wait a minute, and you'll see them it clicks into their brain what you're saying, and then they'll do it. So if you give them, if you ask them to do something, you kind of have to wait a second. Come here, it's time for a diaper change. And then, oh, here they come when they process that verbal information. So to tell a child, don't run, stop, don't run. First of all, it's going to take them a little bit, and probably they're not going to stop running, because one thing we shouldn't do is tell a child don't to do something. We need to tell them what to do. And the cute thing about this child was, I saw this child kind of smile, and I thought, in this child's mind, this child must be thinking, run, cars, woohoo, because that's what it looked like. And in the meantime, the mom is scared that the child's going to get hit, of course. So what's happening is the child cannot understand that something might happen to him, like getting hit by a car. So that's an example of concrete versus abstract. Another example would be pottying. Pottying is a huge abstract. I mentioned it in my diapering video, but what happens is kids can feel the urge to defecate and urinate around 1 year old, is what the materials say, what the research says, but they don't really tie that to actually urinating and defecating. Why? Because they have a diaper on all the time is usually why. And cloth diapers are a little better because then they can feel something in there, whereas paper diapers aren't so good, although some children really hate being in a poopy diaper. And you know this, some kids just really hate that because they can feel it. So this is a great opportunity to tie the abstract of going potty or poop in a toilet, which is just a really weird concept to them because they don't know what you're talking about. But now if they can feel the poop, you say, oh, poop, I talked about giving a sign, poop, then they're going to start to associate that feeling with poop. Let's sit down and put the poop here in the potty, and then they get it. That's why a lot of times I'll tell parents, just take their diaper off and let them run around outside, you know, with the naked bottom, and then they're gonna pee, and you can say, oh look, there's pee-pee, let's pee-pee in the potty here. Anyway, that's a whole nother discussion, potty readiness. I just did that for you. But abstract versus concrete thought. So hopefully that's another illustration of abstract versus concrete. So that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. So we need to not expect that our children are going to really understand these concepts. And again, you know, it happens all the time to us as parents. Oh, have I had kids screaming in the market? My own children screaming because they want something, and I'm trying to explain to them, you can't have that, it's expensive, or you can't have that, it's all sugar. No, they don't get why they cannot have that bottle of soda at age 2. You know, it looks good, it's got a bright picture on it, and they want it, and they're not going to understand your explanation. So just something to keep in mind, abstract versus concrete thought. And I'll be talking about other issues, other toddler issues, which are really our issues, because like I said, this is totally normal developmental place they should be at, right? This is just what happens. And one day you're gonna see a difference. I'll give one other quick little example is that there's impulse control as well. That's something that kids don't develop until later. The idea that they need to not do something or, you know, control their impulse. So I had a child for about a year and a half, and still this child was very verbal, could talk like crazy, like you would not know this child was 2 years old. Blah, 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 blah. This child could even put shoes on and take shoes off themselves, which is, again, really a high developmental level for a 2-year-old, really. But this child could not remember to stay at the lunch table until I came over and wiped hands and removed the food, because I make the kids wait until I remove the food, and then I wipe their hands, and then they can get up and play when they're done eating. And I do that for a number of reasons, not just to be controlling, but because lots of times they'll say, I'm done, and I'll say, okay, and if I leave the food there, I've wiped their hands, and they pick the food up and start eating again. Okay, good, you're still eating, but then they're done, like, so you're wiping hands and constantly, and again, when we're done eating, it's time to play, so let's remove the food, and then I say, just a minute, let me wipe your hands. This child, who again was very high verbally, very high physically, could do crazy things that 2-year-olds usually can't do, could not control themselves to sit and wait another, you know, I'm talking 10, 20 seconds here, because I'm standing there. I'm standing right there with the wet washcloth, ready to wipe the hands. This child, every time, would push themselves out and jump up, and I'd have to say, oh, wait, come back, let me wipe your hands. Again, impulse control, because that child certainly knew this was the routine we did every day after day after day. So again, they're learning these things. Just an example for you, impulse control and abstract versus concrete thought. I'm going to end now. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my page. Please like it. Share it with your friends, because that's what this is about. And that's it.